Son of a... Congratulations on purchasing ham sandwich from the... Sorry, your purchase of technology from the year... No. No. Anyone remember this thing? Remember back when I tried to turn an ultrasonic cleaner into an ultrasonic cutter? Well, the North remembered. I wouldn't call it a rousing success, but it did do something more than just an X-Acto knife on its own. Not a lot, admittedly, but some. Now, granted, it's hard to convey feel via video, but there were a couple of instances of the knife moving through rubber or cardboard, I think, quite easily. Something appeared to be happening at any rate. If I'm not mistaken, this horn and blade were driven with a 60-watt, 40 kilohertz transducer out of the ultrasonic cleaner. Maybe it was 40 watts, I don't quite recall. Whatever it was, the whole thing was bigger than what might comfortably fit in a handheld ultrasonic cutter, which is what this would have become had it worked a bit better. Anyway, since publishing that video, in addition to the usual single men in my area, I've been getting a lot of targeted ads for commercial ultrasonic cutters. And this one in particular, or this variant, kept popping up. This is the USW-334. And to be frank, the rest is pretty much all Greek to me. I think that's Greek anyway. Fortunately, the specs are in science. It's 40 kilohertz. Again, I think mine was at 60. 20 watts, about a third of the power we were running at, and probably a fifth of the power of what you'd need to actually do some fun stuff with an ultrasonic cutter. But I'll abstain from judgment until I've had a chance to play with it. Let's see if Google Translate can't make heads or tails of what this box is trying to tell us. Bear with me just a moment here. Galatian, Georgian, German, Greek. There it is. To English. Of course, I want to download for offline use. All right, I think we got something here. Immediately after opening package, you are hereby bound by international treaty to cut CDs, polystyrene, and the corners off of stacks of paper. Unfortunately, I don't have any polystyrene sheets handy. I do have a stack of paper. I just wrote polystyrene on each and every one of these. All right, it's not bad at making confetti. I have to give it that. So these things I think are made of polycarbonate, though this one in particular is made of pure hellfire. Okay, fine. Maybe hell smoke. For the two of you out there that think this is sacrilege, this CD hasn't worked in 15 or 20 years. And it's kind of melty on polycarbonate. This isn't a hot knife, by the way. I mean, there's certainly heat developed at the cutting edge. And I'm sure we can all relate to how tedious it is removing a track we don't like from a CD with a regular X-Acto knife. This was a walk in the park. In the comments of my ultrasonic cutter video, a lot of people suggested I could have simply used one of those oscillating multi-tools. Like that one in your garage you thought was going to do it all, but you've only used it twice. Counting the first time you just turned it on to see what it sounded like, and of course to find out if it had cut your finger. While in theory, those multi-tools and these cutters fundamentally do the same thing, vibrate a blade so you don't have to do the cutting yourself, these are literally 2 orders of magnitude more vibratey. I don't know what the specs are these days for those multi-tools, but they're mechanically driven. So maybe they're 10, 20, 30,000 strokes per minute. I'm not sure. But let's say 30K to make the math easy. 30,000 strokes per minute works out to about 500 strokes per second. It's likely less, 400 or 300. This is 40,000. Now, granted, this particular model doesn't have the same power that your average multi-tool might, but the cutting action here is much more, I don't know, microscopic, for lack of a better word. The cutting effect is different, and especially, I think, more material dependent. Anyway, let's see what you get. Ideally suited for coronating seahorses. Nice. First things first, it is a lot lighter than it looks. Honestly, both these parts feel empty, like hollow plastic. But it's more or less like a soldering station. Reverse thread on that thing. I guess that's to keep the holder from loosening when you put the cutter back. And it comes with some spares. Looks like additional blades, a tool, and some other really small hardware. Set screws, that sort of thing. And just an on and off switch. No power adjust, though I guess that makes sense for a low power ultrasonic cutter. Now, I resisted the urge to buy this, but something in me kept wondering how they got it so small. Now, frankly, I'm wondering why it's so light. And, you know, how they worked. Not how they work. I think I got a sense of that. I mean, how well they work. And, well, I guess I finally broke down and bought one. You won this round, Google. All kidding aside, I half justified this as a gift for the wife. I'll have you know she's quite the crafty woman. Arts and crafty. For the sort of materials she uses, if this still works when we get it back together, I think she'll love it. Added bonus, since it's a gift, I can't be legally forced to disclose how much I spent. Relying on my mind-boggling powers of deductive reasoning, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that the power supply and driver are in here. The power and the smarts, basically. According to the box, this does some sort of feedback to keep the blade in resonance. And the transducer is probably in here, you know, as opposed to the other way around. Before I break this down, though, let's put it through its paces. Try it on some stuff. Give me just a moment to collect some material from around the garage here, and we'll see what 20 watts can do. Here's what I've managed to scrounge together. The last time we started with cardboard and rubber, so I got that same stuff out. 2 pieces of rubber. This stuff's a little harder, not much, but a little more firm than this drawer liner stuff. Got a piece of felt, just because I found some around. A piece of leather. I've got a wooden dowel. This is, I don't know what, beech or birch or something maybe. A hot glue stick. This could be a lot of things, but these cheap ones are usually EVA, not to be confused with AVE. EVA is something vinyl, or more precisely, something vinyl something. Depending on how much of that something is in there, EVA can manifest itself as anything from hot glue to flip-flops or pool noodles. I've got a cap from a small water bottle. This is almost certainly polypropylene. There's no markings in it, but I think caps are almost always polypropylene. I grabbed a cut off of this stuff. I thought it was acrylic, but I think it's actually polycarbonate since we already did the CD. I won't try that one. This is PVC. That's Teflon. This is 1/2 of my neighbor's remote control. It's ABS. I know that because these sort of things are almost always made of ABS. That, and it says ABS right there. Unless that's trying to tell me I have nice abs. And I have one of those containers they send you tools and such in. I don't remember what I bought. By the looks of it, it was probably a small drill or end mill. This, I believe, is HDPE. It could be polypropylene. Again, it's not marked, but this appears to be blow molded, which likely makes it HDPE, like a milk jug or a gas can. I suppose it could be any of a dozen plastics, but HDPE is my guess for now. I think that's it. Oh, hold on. There's this CD case. This almost certainly is polystyrene. Let's give them a try. First up, the cardboard. All right, it's cutting that like butter. Let's try the drawer liner stuff. Yep, just like I remember it feeling before. Here's the slightly harder stuff. That is somewhat vindicating. I'm going to skip the felt and the leather. I don't know if it'll do that well against that. Let's jump to polypropylene. So that feels like I'd expect it to feel. And that feels like a hot knife. There's definitely a difference. I mean, you do still have to push the blade a bit to get it cutting. But once it's in there, it really starts trucking. Here's the wood dowel. I'm sure everyone knows what that feels like. Interesting, it is burning the wood. Again, that's not a hot knife. Not to mention it's not like a hot knife melts its way through wood. This is hot glue, because why not? Oh no, that's quite a difference. PVC. Just a warning on PVC. If you're screwing around with this stuff, you do not want to breathe in the fumes. It's a little gummy, but again, feels like a hot knife. It's polystyrene. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Again, hot knife. ABS. I don't know where to have at this thing. Yeah, of course I hit that boss there. Oh, one more. What I think is the HDPE tube. Yeah, that is slower. Sorry if I went out of frame there. This is the bottom of that tube I just cut off and not a stick of butter. I'm starting to get a feeling that the angle of attack is important. Yep. All right, a few thoughts at this point. First, my apologies for any chainsaw sounds you may have heard. I'll try my best to minimize them, but neighbors will be neighbors. Though I'm starting to think that giant red on the air sign I installed on the house is starting to have ironic effects. Second, I noticed in editing that this cap actually does have info on it, an incredibly small number 2, which makes this HDPE. My entire life has been a lie. And since these two felt very different under the knife, I'm going to change my answer and go with Poly Pro on the stick of butter. Although this thing really is something else, I mean, it does feel like the future is here. It's just not enough power for what I think I'd like to do with it. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you do a lot of, I don't know, model making, very detailed work in thin, tough materials, this thing is probably great. Still think my wife will love this. Though keep in mind she does always end up exchanging the Christmas presents I get her. So there's that. In a garage shop, this might be good if I'm grasping at straws here. Maybe you cut a lot of custom gaskets for stuff, or maybe you're cleaning a lot of flash from plastic parts. Perhaps you're an avant-garde hot glue stick sculptor. I don't know. Think of it like lasers. No one's not going to play with a 5-watt laser, even though a 500-watt laser would be better. But then again, if you're a socially challenged college professor who likes laser pointing at your slides, well, a 500-watt laser might make a mess of your projector screen. Ask me how I know. I did the math. If you're going through 2,000 X-Acto blades a month, well dang, this thing pays for itself in, well, a month. Look, it's like my broke grandpa always said, you've got to spend money to save money. Now let's have at this thing. Dang. Now, why would they do that? Okay, this is a little anticlimactic, not in that I was expecting a floating orb of pure sonic power or anything like that, but I don't really know what I'm looking at, like in terms of sharing life-changing, profound insights into what's going on. I mean, what do I look like? I'm made out of atoms or electrons or something? Hey, for what it's worth, it looks clean and well put together. They did go to the trouble of using a lot of nice colors in there. It appears to be all or a lot of analog stuff, though probably easy to fix, or not that hard to fix should something go wrong. However, I don't recognize this giant ominous gray block attached under the heatsink, which has screws going straight through it. Can't be that important if they skewered it like that. Maybe it's just an example to the other components? You know, like what happens if you're a rat. Well, they do have something on there to probably check if it's running a fever. And there's a fuse. Might have been nice if that was externally accessible, but maybe they don't expect this thing to blow its top all that often. I've gone ahead and put this thing back together. Unfortunately, there's not much to see here. Let's turn our attention to the actual cutter. Oh, I was really hoping for a screw under there. Dang it. This thing snapped together? Yeah. Let me get this blade out of here before I cut myself. Do not use the blade with a hole. Did they give me a blade with a hole? How mean would that be if they did? So I've been having at this thing without much luck. It doesn't want to open up. That crackling is not a good sign or sound. I'm thinking this thing is either bonded or ultrasonically welded. Both of which mean we're not getting into this without permanent destruction. Kind of funny, I don't know how many of you follow the news. All of the recent right to repair legislation they're talking about for 2019, it's because of this kind of stuff. And again, I hear that crackling that sounds like weld breaking or adhesive giving up the ghost. I really wanted to get a look at what that transducer and horn, I guess, maybe look like in here. I'm at an impasse, crossroads. The plastic components, welded like this, could make up some important part of the structure that makes this thing work. If I cut it or crack it or break it to get a look at the inside, I mean, I'm not worried about it being ugly when it goes back together. I'm worried about it not working when it goes back together. Odds of that are pretty slim, but I might hand this off to my wife, see how she feels about it. If she doesn't particularly like it or doesn't use it much, maybe we'll bring this back and run her once under the bandsaw. That's unfortunate. I mean, there can be legit reasons for welding parts together like this. I can't imagine they're making a million of these units a year where they're trying to save cost on a fastener or two. Maybe there's intellectual property in here they don't want people easily getting at. Though if I bought this trying to compete in the cutthroat world of ultrasonics, I likely wouldn't have any qualms breaking into this thing. Well, it still works. Not that we really did anything to it. Let's see what it does to ceramic. Something very brittle. It's an old TIG nozzle. Nothing at all. No one's the boss of me, except maybe my boss and my manager, and most times my wife. So I was going to end the video right there. Would have been a bit of a letdown, I realize that. Sometimes that's just how these things shake out. In editing though, the squishy, crackly sounds we heard when I was flexing the housing, well, they started to bother me. I mean, even a terrible ultrasonic weld wouldn't be that bad. Long story short, it uses 7 or 8 of these perimeter snaps, like these blind snaps, like the back of your cell phone might have. And a few drops of what looks like CA glue in strategic locations. I saw the first one in through the back. I was able to pry the back open a little bit and saw that first snap. When I realized what was going on, I could squeeze the bottom half in a vise, just a little, and work my way around with some picks. So more or less what you might expect. The phone jack where the phone calls come in, small PCB with an LED, lets you know you got messages, and the transducer. Piezo stack, the counter mass, I guess, and the horn up at the front. It's anchored in the middle with this rubber gasket sort of thing. I'm not sure what this washer does. Maybe it's just a shim to get a good tight fit in the plastic housing. Now, some viewers in my old video commented that I should have tried that. And it does make sense, but it seems to me like you'd lose half of the amplitude, right? When this stack grew and contracted, half of that would happen at the front, or some percentage of that would happen at the front, and the rest would happen at the back, as opposed to mounting it on the end, where you'd drive that length change all to the business end. But, you know, it's hard to argue with something that works. This little button is pretty cheesy. I'd expect that to probably be the first thing to break. Don't know about you, but I thought that was pretty cool to see. It's interesting to me how much smaller the transducer was in here compared to this thing. That was 20 versus 60 watts. I guess that stack could be 3 times bigger. Again, this appeared to do something, just now I'm seeing it wasn't very efficient, to put it nicely. Or maybe this has better smarts in it, some of that feedback to maintain resonance. I don't know. But what I do know is this whole exercise has given me a little bit of a kick in the butt to maybe try this again. I might do some more digging into the control circuit side of things. After all, that stuff didn't look all that complicated, and see if I can't work towards a bigger, badder version 2.0. The mechanics of what's going on in these things is just so interesting to me, and I just love how silent this thing is. Thanks for watching.